Hello, everybody, and welcome to Realty Success Hub. I am so super excited today. We've got a fantastic guest who's going to join us. Her name is Monika, and she is in the world of home renovation and construction. And she's going to tell us today how to renovate or build a home you love, not a nightmare you can't afford. My name is Brooke Bryant. I'm a realtor in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And I love working with first-time home buyers. That's my passion. I also love to list homes and have worked with lots of investors. So I've seen all aspects of the home renovation, flipping, construction side of things. So I'm really excited to learn more about that today. And also joining me today is Angela Brown. Angela, if you're here, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
I am here, and thank you so much, Brooke, for having me here today. I'm Angela Brown, and I represent the move-in, move-out side of the Realty business, which is huge. In fact, I just wrote a book, shameless self-promotion, called The Ultimate Guide to Move-in, Move-Out Cleaning. And if you are a homeowner and you are thinking about selling your house, it's a series of checklists and everything that you need to do so that you can save money from hiring a professional, and that also you're going to get the most amount of money for your home. So I'm super excited to be included on today's show. We've got a fantastic topic and a fantastic guest. And so, Brooke, I will turn it back to you while you introduce our guest. But thanks for having me here. And you can follow me on all the socials at Ask Angela Brown.
So excited to have you here, Angela. And yeah, so we want to welcome our guest, Monika. She's with a company called D Mays, and she's going to tell us how to, again, renovate or build a home that you love and not a nightmare that you can't afford. So, Monika, tell us a little bit about yourself and how we can avoid home renovation from being a nightmare.
Well, thank you for having me. And I love talking about this subject. So it's a pretty exciting time for me to be sharing this knowledge. I will, or I believe you can put in the comments, right, the link to my free masterclass, which is I put 25 years of my expertise in the building industry into that. And it's a must see if you are thinking about home renovation or building, whether it is now or 5 years from now, because all the time spent now for educating yourself is going to give you huge returns in the future. So who am I? I am essentially someone who helps homeowners avoid the notorious horrors of evaporating money, questionable quality, shady contractors, never-ending work, and very serious burnout, emotional and financial burnout. Because the fact is that even before COVID, 92% of real estate projects experience delays, and about between 68 and 72% of homeowners end up blowing their budgets. So the name of my business, D-Mazing, was actually bestowed upon me years ago when a female client of mine said, Monika, before you, I felt with my project as if I were in a maze. I didn't know whether to turn left or right. And she said, do you realize that you cracked the code of the maze? You are so D-Mazing. So you can find me on my website at D-Mazing, and it's DE-MAZING.com, where in addition to the free masterclass, I also have a free ebook, and you can also schedule free construction therapy sessions with me, quick sessions to see where you are and how I can specifically help you. Because each project is very unique when it comes to you, the homeowner, even though the process, regardless of whether you are geographically and regardless of whether you are doing a big project or a small project, certain things are always the same. They are not, they never change. So I am called a curator because I curate the entire process from A to Z, from this aha moment of an idea for a project in your head, all the way to the zen-like feeling of your housewarming party. And I handle all the mind-boggling in between. So helping people understand what the process is. Then I bring all the appropriate players to the table, the contractor, the architect, or other design professional. And then I manage the entire process, being an advocate for a homeowner, keeping everyone accountable, including the homeowner. So I'm very
Wow.
excited to be here.
That's fantastic to have somebody who is with you from the beginning, as you said, the aha moment to the Z's in, from A to Z throughout the whole process. That is really fantastic. So I guess to get started in your 25 plus years experience in this industry, what do you think? What are some of the reasons that home renovations and building projects are not successful?
So two reasons. One is the building industry itself is a total mess. Maybe perhaps men are major player in it. And I don't know, it is sort of totally counterintuitive and overly complicated. So building industry is a mess. And I'm sure you heard a lot of horror stories. There are many shows, right, that are sort of scandals, showing us the scandals of the project. And the process is counterproductive, and it creates an area, it creates a space where all the players, which is the homeowner, the contractor, and then the architect, find themselves always having to defend their positions, rather being foes, essentially being foes, rather than being friends. And the second reason why it is such a normal thing that projects are a horror story is that there is really no readily available, comprehensive, pragmatic and making sense education available. So what normally happens is homeowners go to HGTV show, or they watch Netflix extreme home makeovers episodes, and these shows are very good for your design inspiration, but they are not good for solid, comprehensive knowledge. What a homeowner needs to understand is that there is a process. Your project is not an event, it is a process. And the huge factor in the success of your project when you actually starting work lies in the phases before. So you see, most people think that there is just construction. So they, without any planning, they just jump into that. Some people do realize that there is pre-construction. In fact, every project has 4 phases. So the first phase is design phase, pre-construction, construction, and closeout. And in the design phase, what you need to do as a homeowner, and leave as much time for this phase as necessary, even if it takes you a year or 2 years. In this design phase, yes, binge on the HGTV shows to see what you like from the design standpoint. What kind of finishes do you like? Do you like wood on your walls? Do you like stone? What type of flooring do you like? Go to open houses with a tape measure and observe what it is that you like. For instance, I thought I would like homes with high ceilings, but then when I went to open houses, I realized I actually like the cozy feeling of a cottage. So in my home now, we are now in my home and it's my living room, my ceilings are very low and I love it. So until you take it sort of like to a test, your likes and dislikes, you will not know it. Also, you might love, I don't know, did you watch Sex and the City? So many of my female clients said, Monika, I'm dying to have the foyer like Carrie Bradshaw. And I'm looking at them and they are like, they have a dog, they have 2 children, they are covered in saliva and vomit. And I am like, no, Carrie Bradshaw foyer will not work for you. You need a sturdy foyer with a large closet to shove all the backpacks and strollers and leashes, and a bench for you to comfortably sit down and undress and dress your children. So So yes, design is the first phase. And then in pre-construction, construction, and closeout. And by the way, I do explain it in my free masterclass. I don't want to bore you with technicalities right now.
No, but I
So
love what you brought up, because one of the things that I didn't realize, I too thought that I wanted a 2-story entryway. And on going through open houses, we asked, hey, tell me about the theatrics of this. And they're like, oh, there are theatrics, because anywhere in the house you can hear the echo. If somebody's coming or going, you can hear that throughout the house. And they said, because it's an open space, there's a lot of noise if people are downstairs and you're upstairs trying to sleep. So you may not want that big open space. And then they said, and then there's a factor that you have to consider with the heating and air conditioning, where you're heating and cooling all this extra space, usually in a room that's not used very much. And we were like, oh, wait a second, we changed our minds already, And it's just those little nuances that you don't know until you actually have a conversation with someone, or until you, like you said, you go to the open house and you make a list, and then you figure out what's going to work for you in your particular lifestyle and situation.
That's a great advice, to go to open houses and to experience these different architectural details in the space. We can look at these shows on TV and have a romanticized notion of how great it would be to have something that visually looks like that. But until you apply what your lifestyle is going to look like in that space, it just may not make sense for you. So that's really good. That's great advice. And Angela, I'm sure this is true for you too. Before you start a new job, there has to be a plan in place. You can't just walk into a customer's home and with your cleaning supplies and just get started. You need to take the time to get to know their expectations and make a plan for that, which is exactly what you were saying, Monika, about having a plan before you get started with your renovations. So would you say that that's the first step that you need to do, is, and really spend a lot of time focusing on, is what your goal is? Can you walk us through a little bit of that? Like, what would make a successful home renovation project from that beginning phase?
Sure. So the first is realizing that the project has the 4 phases, right? It's not just the work itself. No, it's not just when there is banging and dust and workers in your house, right? The second is, most people fail to make the very first and absolutely critical decision, which is choosing their focus. So no matter how big the project is or how small the project is, every project has 3 organizing components, and it is quality, budget, and schedule. So I will use my example to illustrate this. So when I bought my house, I didn't have unlimited financial resources. So my focus was really budget. So I decided, it was very clear to me, it became clear to me when I really give it enough thought, that I had no business putting an addition to my home. And I had no business going to some posh boutiques with building materials where, one piece of handmade tile was $45. Instead, I decided to keep my home within the existing footprint, and I actually but created the second floor. This living room actually had a cathedral ceiling, which, as I said before, I had discovered I didn't care for. So I just added the flooring system, creating additional bedroom, bathroom, and a walk-in closet on the second floor without spending the money that I would have needed to excavate, which is, dig a hole, pour foundation, and frame another room outside of my existing footprint. So making this a very first critical decision is cutting on the decision burnout. I see so many people totally unclear as to where they are. So you need to decide what it is that you care about and stick to it. Be very disciplined. Now another example, if your main focus is schedule, meaning the time it takes for your project from A to Z, then you need to be prepared to perhaps spend more money to expedite, because perhaps there will have to be 2 shifts when your project is in construction to keep the work going. You might have to settle for a lesser quality, because things with better quality are time consuming, right? So choosing that focus is saving so much of your energy and putting your project and yourself on a very clear path, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, understanding that there are 4 phases, making the first critical decision, and also again educating yourself and understanding that unless you are professionally trained, you should hire a contractor who is going to manage everyone in your project. They will be responsible for the execution, and there has to be someone responsible for documentation. A lot of horror stories stem from the fact that people have no clear understanding of what is called scope of work. And it has to be expressed in drawings, schedules, interior elevations, building cross sections, lists, sketches, plans, all of that. A lot of people don't really understand that, and it's key. So there is documentation, and it's best left in the hands of a design professional, whether it is an architect, if you have a bigger project and you have to hire someone who is licensed, which will be necessary for your building permit. The execution is best left for the contractor, and you have the very important third aspect of the project to take care of, which is decision making. If your project is small, you can take upon yourself the tasks and responsibilities of a design professional or a contractor, but there are like 27 tasks and responsibilities of a contractor and architect, and 32 tasks and responsibilities of a contractor. So there is a lot to take on, and I encourage people to hire professional so that they are really supported.
I love that, because so many people don't know what is involved because that's not their job, and they don't do that all day, every day. And they think, oh, I'm just going to have a couple of people come to my house and they're going to make some renovations and it's all going to be good. So my question for you is, if I'm a homeowner and I'm thinking about doing some kind of a renovation or a construction project on my house, is there a piece of software? Or do I just use a legal pad, or how do I keep track of all of the things that are important to me that you're mentioning to me right now?
So your task as a homeowner is again spend very productively the time in the design phase, right? So understand what it is that you want to do. So if you just built a home and it's a new space for you, I actually encourage you to spend a year, if you are in geographically in the space where the seasons change, because you are going to experience your home differently in the summer and differently in the winter. Then you need to, for instance, decide on million things. For instance, I don't like waking up in a room with the sun. So I changed what used to be a bedroom in this house when I bought it is not my bedroom. I put it in a different part of the house, right? Again, observe how you move in the house, how you utilize it. Do you like eating your breakfast at a large table, or do you like to eat it in a little breakfast nook? Or maybe you like to eat it in the TV room, right? What do you want? How do you want to utilize your living room? Do you like things like fireplaces, right? I put a fireplace in my bedroom, in my living room. It was very important to me. And then you assemble all the pictures and all the notes of what is important for you. If you are expecting a child, maybe you want to convert as a garage into a nursery. Or if you are if you have a podcast and you want to save money on the rental, maybe you want to finish your basement and make it a recording studio. So you need to be very, very clear on the scope of work. And with all these documentation and your notes from your visits to other homes and open houses, you then approach a design professional who is going to put all these crazy ideas, I'm saying crazy because sometimes they are, contradictory, all these ideas in your head into something that can be actually professionally used. And I really encourage you to invest in plans, because think of them as your insurance policy. A few days ago, I was having lunch and I overheard a woman saying, I cannot believe it. I told my contractor I wanted a cozy bathroom, and she gave him a picture from some magazine, which is very good. It's a very good beginning. What did she end up in? She left to take care of her mother, and she came after a few weeks, and there was just this claustrophobically small room with a tiny window, because this was the contractor's interpretation of her adjective cozy.
Yeah.
Construction is all about measurements, dimensions, specifics. So you do need to really invest and communicate with the design professionals. They are going to create all the documentation, so that there is no room left for interpretation or guessing, or you want two sinks in your bathroom, you need to have it drawn. What kind of sinks? Are they porcelain sinks? Do you want to splurge on something entirely luxurious and have the sinks perhaps made of the same stone material that is used on your counter, right? So again, it's really clarity on you, and that's why it cannot be rushed. I was professionally already involved in the construction when I bought this house, and I spent almost a year again observing how the sun moves, in all the rooms. I went to garage sales and I bought a lot of things I knew I would love, and if rushed, I would have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. I bought light fixtures, I bought bathroom accessories, I bought a fantastic vintage cover that used to be probably used in a fireplace, and now I'm using it as a cover for my main heating system. And every time I walk by it, I just sigh the sigh of absolute pleasure. Our homes should be source of our pleasure, and only we know what makes us feel good, what really deserves to be described as something pleasurable. So we do, as homeowners, we really have tremendous responsibility to educate ourselves, to discover what we like, and then to find the appropriate architect and a contractor to support us. And there is a process that is involved in that, and the steps and vetting, so that you don't end up with a contractor that leaves you sobbing behind the dumpster, because that's one of the horror stories I heard of someone sobbing behind the dumpster.
Well, I love what you said about to take your time and don't be in a rush. I think you touched on earlier about some of the shows that we watch that give us inspiration, and they can give us this false sense of we can have a dream home complete within a weekend. We can do a complete renovation, have it perfectly decorated within a weekend. And that isn't necessary. It's, first of all, it's unrealistic. And secondly, is that really what you want? Do you want your home to look like that? Or do you want it to be a curation of things that you've found over the years? So I love that you advise your clients to spend some time in their space and get to know it along the process. And you mentioned that it's so important to have professionals help you. Would you think that's the most important thing to help prevent homeowners from making design choices that they regret soon after or completion, or even before completion?
I think that if you really did spend this, time in the design phase productively, you won't. And then again, so as an example, I have a tiny bathroom, and I left it sort of like for the very end. I literally spent 48 hours sitting in this bathroom when I stripped it to bare bones. So I removed like a plastic walk-in tub from the 50s, and the horrible tile that was there, and both on the walls and the floor. And I spent 48 hours sitting on a bucket, on an upturned bucket, for some sheetrock, empty bucket, and I was really looking around what I really wanted. And again, it was a process. I decided, because I usually take showers, that I'm going to turn myself into someone who loves taking baths. And I don't like the what are they called? The tubs that have, shower jets, right? Because it's just like, to me, like, germs. So I found a tub that uses air to create bubbles and water jets, right? Then it was a challenge to fit it in the small bathroom, but I really thought I really found a way. Then I was thinking of a lot of storage, because storage is so very important, and it really pays for you to take away a little bit of the real estate of a room to create a storage, because then you can put all the unmentionables in there and you create this idea of a much larger space, even though it is a small space. So again, it was a process then. So I decided, okay, I want a tub, I want a storage. Here is the vanity with a sink. And then I proceeded to, okay, what materials would I want? So I went to a lot of showrooms. It was weeks worth of decision making and looking. And then I brought the floor material, the wall material, and the material that I put on top of the countertop of the vanity. And I put it in the room, and I was observing it in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, on a sunny day, on a gloomy day. My brother thought I lost my mind, but I really wanted to see, do I like this material? So as you can see, it's like you need to become a little obsessive about this, really, to not regret your decisions. And after weeks of going through this process for one tiny bathroom, and it is tiny and it's cozy, and I love it because I spent a lot of time, and then I had it drawn professionally with the exact dimensions where I wanted my faucet to come out of the wall, so that it is where, that on the seam, in the middle of the tile, and not on the seam on the tile. But again, it is hours and weeks of decisions. And it all starts with you, homeowner. What do you want? How do you want to utilize the space? How do you want to occupy it? What kind of experience you want to create for yourself and your family in that home?
I know for me, when I am purchasing a home, or if I'm making a decision on what our future home is going to be, for me, it comes down to cleaning. And I hate to say this because I spend so much time cleaning that, like, we're in the process of buying a home right now. And we went and looked at a home, and it had the most magnificent shower. It was like half of the bathroom, and it was all these little tiny tiles. They were like these little 1-inch tiles with grout in the middle. And then it had this great big waterfall fountain that came over the top. And then there was this huge tub inside the shower. So it was like this great big room. And then halfway over across the room, there's this great big magnificent standalone tub. And my husband is like, "This is beautiful." And I sat there and I was like, there is no way in heck that I'm going to get inside a shower like that and then clean all the soap scum off of every one of those little tiny tiles and the grout. And then what? There's a bathtub in the middle of the shower that's going to get dirty every time you take a shower. And how is that going to work? It's just going to get all soapy and suds and all kinds of overspray. And then what? You're going to have to clean it every single time, even though no one used it. Let me check. That is not going to happen in one of my houses, right? And because I have spent so much time cleaning people's houses, and they got all these weird little intricate design things, like even just a ledge that comes over the entryway window, where people are like, "Oh, I could climb up there and I could put stuffed toys and stuff." I'm like, no way. There's going to be dust that you cannot even reach. Do not do that. That is not a good idea. And so I have this like off limits for every home thing that he likes. "Oh, this is so cool." I'm like, that is cool for a second because it isn't a model home. But if you were to live in that house, dust is going to catch on every one of those little intricate little curly cues. No way. There's no way I'm going to bring a little makeup brush and dust every one of those little curly cues. I don't have the kind of time for that. No. And so I look at it the same way that you do, but not from a situation of, is this going to be just, so beautiful and make me enjoy the space? Yeah, those homes are beautiful. Are they realistic? Some of them are not at all. And I do like you do, where I will sit in different spots where a homeowner would sit. We do this especially in Airbnbs, where if someone is sitting in this spot, what are they going to see? And we look around, and it shows us from the vantage point of the customer. And like you said, at different times of the day, as the light shines on things differently, you're going to see dust coming from that window in like a stream of light. And if it's 10 o'clock at night, If you walk in, if you're walking up a flight of stairs, for example, you're going to see it resting on the stairs, or where that there's a little gap between the ledge and where the next room starts. You're going to see all these little things that you don't normally see. So I love your idea about making sure that you really understand the space. And are you okay with that? And is that going to serve your particular purpose for the type of lifestyle that's going to be lived inside that home? Excellent
Yeah.
advice.
Our home should bring us joy and comfort and happiness, and whether that's through cleaning or through aesthetics or how we use that space to soak in a tub or to stand in a shower, that is really great advice, to spend some time in the space and think how you're going to use it, how you're going to best enjoy it, and really put your mind to what that's going to look like and spend the time to create that. And I think, and you made some really good points, Monica, that it doesn't have to cost a fortune. Do you have some good tips to achieve what you want without blowing your budget?
Yes, absolutely. So again, this design phase, right? I told you I bought a lot of things that were really ridiculously cheap because I went to garage sales, going out of business sales, clearances, thousands and thousands of dollars. And also, and here is a counterintuitive tip for you, okay? What is encouraged in the building industry is competitive bidding. The problem with it is that it is usually based on a very rudimentary few sketches, not fully developed documentation. And again, documentation is floor plans, elevations, and so the floor plan is something that you would see if you were to levitate above the room. It will be the outline of the room, how big it is, right? So that's a floor plan. Then the elevation is everything that you see where you look on the wall. So there are 4 walls in most rooms, I mean, unless they are round, right? So you do need all that. You do need to have materials chosen, etc. No one does that. Everybody goes to competitive bidding with just a few pieces of paper. What are you being so unprepared? What are you communicating to the bidders that most that you care about is your budget, which is nothing wrong being vigilant with a budget. I will explain something in a second. So everybody is artificially presenting their budgets so that the bottom line is the least amount of money. Very dangerous. What I am championing instead is for you to sort of date and interview as many contractors as you want, okay? To discover whether you, first of all, whether there is chemistry, and your gut feeling is important, right? Is there chemistry, and do you trust them? Then ask them to show you 3 of their projects and tell them to show you the most expensive, middle, and the least expensive project that they built, and see if you like what they produced. And then share your budget. I know it's counterintuitive, and I can just hear like, what? You know, the total protest. But share your budget with the team, with your contractor and the architect that should actually be hired at the same time, so that what is being designed is being priced and verified. So it's priced for the budget checkup, and it's also verified from the constructability standpoint. Okay, so
Do you have both of them there together at the same time?
correct. So you say if your budget, and okay, and in renovation, let's say you are doing renovation of your apartment, which could easily be $100,000, okay? You withhold 25% because there will always be at least 25%. There will always be surprises, and you withhold 15% at least when you are building a new home. So going back to the example of $100,000 apartment renovation, and I mean, like, you know, gut renovation, stripping, moving things around, all that. So you say to the team, hey, I have $75,000 and I want you from this, you know, loft to create 2 bedrooms because I have 2 kids. I want a small office. I like an open floor plan, so I would like the kitchen and the living room to be one room, and I do want, a laundry room here and whatever it is. And then your team works together to create this project for you for the budget that you can afford. Otherwise, and also sometimes design professionals, are sort of pushing certain things they would like. So in a project here, when we were renovating and adding on to a new house, an architect wanted a cantilevered part of the house, of the second floor, so it hangs, right? It added, but because contractor was involved in the process, in the pre-construction. So we talked about design. You are hiring your architect and a contractor in the next phase, which is pre-construction. Now they are hired. You've shared your budget with them. And the contractor was able to say, hey, yes, it looks sexy, this cantilevered part, but you just added $35,000 in structural steel. It was not an important thing for the client, so it was just not included in the scope of work. Mm-hmm. And then, if you choose a general contractor, they are going to, once you have the full documentation with everything, because you made all these design decisions, then a general contractor, having all the minutiae, can competitively bid on your behalf with different subs meaning trades. They mm-hmm. can get three bids, no more than, though. I say, because it becomes like confusing. No more than 3 bids from 3 electricians, and 3 bids from a plumber, and 3 bids from a painter. That's how you get the best price for yourself.
And do you always recommend three bids?
At least. And again, sometimes you might have to make a decision. Again, if your main focus is budget, right? There can be an electrician who is a little bit more expensive but readily available. But then there is another one who is not so busy and less expensive. Is less expensive but very busy. So you might say, okay, I am willing to wait a month for this less expensive electrician. So again, there are the choices. And remember how we said, what is your main focus? Mm-hmm. But that's how you control your budget. And then, of course, I also champion cost plus projects. So what these projects are, they give you complete financial transparency. You need to insist that your contractor builds your budget using all 16 construction categories. There are 16 main construction categories and many subcategories that reflect the uniqueness of your project and the exact scope of your work. So your budget has to have all these line items. I mean, I have projects that have 300 line items, right? And then every month when the contractor is asking for a payment, ask for an updated budget. So original budget, current budget, and by current budget, you are going to see all the fluctuations, right? You might say in the beginning, let's say you don't want to finish your wall with stone in your living room, right? But then you say, you know what, I think it's an important thing for me, but it is $10,000. So you need to change the line item that was for the stone by adding this $10,000, but then look in other areas of your budget, and there will be many where you could perhaps make other decisions to save this $10,000. So maybe you are going to choose less expensive appliances, right?
So you're using the same money, but you're just reallocating it as the scope of the work changes a little bit.
Yes, my clients say buckets. So you kind of dip into different buckets. So always insist with your contractor to give you an updated budget so that you always have the full financial transparency, and you can also make plans accordingly, because one of the columns of the budget report, so there is original budget, current budget, what was previously invoiced, what is currently invoiced, the sum of it, and then balance to completion. It's fantastic. It's not like, I have so many people telling me stories, Monika, I never saw any budget report. I never saw any complete invoice with the copies of the bills from all the subs that my contractor was doing. And I never knew from month to month how much money I will need to finish the project. That's insane. But this is what is actually happening in most projects, because people don't understand what they need to do and what they need to insist on from the professionals. So if you are an educated homeowner, you will not be taken advantage of, because you are going to say, okay, I expect from you the budget in 16 cost categories. I expect every month a budget report updated religiously, so that you are empowered to make decisions to stay within the budget that you are comfortable with.
Right. That's a conversation you need to have at the beginning when you are
Absolutely.
when you're selecting the professionals to work with you. Then you need to have that conversation right from the beginning, that this is your level of expectation, that you're going to go through this line by line with them every month. So let's say you do have an issue with one of the vendors on budgeting or the quality of work that they're doing, or whatever the case is. How do you advocate for yourself in that situation? Do you go to your general contractor? Do you have those conversations yourself? What do you think is the best approach?
So you see, the great part about hiring a general contractor is that they are actually responsible for all scheduling of the work. Really having someone on the side, on the job site, it's called a job site supervisor or a foreman, who is actually ensuring that the quality is correct, is right. And it's not your job to really talk to vendors. Your contractor is going to talk to vendors on your behalf. And if there is an issue, you need to communicate it to your contractor, in a timely manner. So what I also encourage people to do is having very, very scheduled meetings. So whether it is once a week or 3 times a week, when your contractor, when the representative of a contractor is present with this job site supervisor, you walk through the entire project and you point out, you ask questions. Sometimes you might be, unduly stressed because you don't understand something and you see some wires sticking out, but then the contractor is going to explain to you that's totally expected. Don't worry about that. If you don't like maybe the color of the wall, right? If you are participating in the regular progress meetings, you are going to catch it when perhaps the first coat of paint goes on and not when it is completely done. So there are things to be again, this open communication with a contractor, the progress meetings or progress reports if you cannot be around for the entire duration of your project.
Well, one of the things that I have done with my own personal home repairs, and I learned this from the house cleaning industry, because there are oftentimes in the middle of a job where something will pop up at you. And if you are the service provider, you did not know it was coming until you got a certain part of the job. For example, in a home repair, you might discover that you ripped down a wall, but then there's a whole bunch of mold or something behind that wall. And it's going to require more time and money and renovations than you actually budgeted for, that you had no way of knowing. And so one of the things that I ask every single person that I'm on the job, if I am the service provider, I ask them, how will you know this project is finished? And it's a great question, because it unearths those, well, it will look like this, or it will have this, or I will feel this way about the particular project. And if I am the person purchasing the project and I am the homeowner and I'm hiring the service provider, the question I ask is, what are the hidden costs that commonly come up on jobs like this that I forgot to ask or I didn't know to ask? And a lot of times they'll say, oh, well, because I'm resurfacing your stairway. One of the things that is going to come up I forgot to mention is there are 3 different types of stains, and they vary like $40 a gallon difference in price. And so then I can say, well, let's have that conversation right now while I'm in that stage and we're talking about the money end of it, so that I'm not surprised. And I hate this at the last minute, where if I'm in the middle of a job and I happen to be there and they say, oh, which one is it? And I haven't discussed it with my spouse or something, and it's a 2-person decision. Am I going to say, oh yeah, knock down that wall and just go ahead and do that? Or do we need to halt the project so we can have that conversation? Or, you know what I mean? So I love having those conversations in advance, which is what you're advocating for. in that we can get a lot of this stuff out on the table and then figure out what those actual costs are going to be. Because there's nothing like hiring someone, being told it's a certain price, and then you feel like it's a bait and switch, where then halfway through the project something changed, or somebody on the team authorized something that wasn't the original agreement, and now it's way over budget and all those kinds of things.
But exactly, these are all these things can come up, and they usually do. I mean, there is not a project in my 25 years that just went without any surprises. But if you have the team that are the team of allies and friends, they have your back, right? So you will not be taken advantage of. And again, spending all this time, weeks, months, or years in the design phase, you will know exactly what you like. What kind of stain? Do you prefer lighter stain, medium stains? Do you want black floors? But then again, you touched upon, Angela, on the very important things, which is practicality of maintaining your house, right? I mean, yes, when the sun hits this black floor, I had cats. It was like, what was I thinking? So no, in my second home, I don't have black floors. So sometimes you live and learn through this. But definitely there is if you spend the time and you went through the vetting process and the right way to find a contractor, and I'm teaching about this, so you are going to have a team that will watch your back. And you will be, you will feel free to communicate with them openly. And there is also, it's important that there is a chain of command. So when you hire a contractor, they should have a project manager who will be the main point of contact for you, right? And their responsibility is going to be circulating the information. If this is a special floor profile of the interior door, you as a homeowner are going to get it so that it's approved by you. So you should not be blindsided by some things that you never approved. And again, the more time you spend to prepare, right? You don't have to rush. You don't have to feel rushed and like you have to question your decisions, your choices.
All right. So tell me, if I'm a homeowner and I'm getting ready to do some home repairs, tell me about you. How do I find a you for my project? How does that work?
So I have the masterclass, which I think is a must to watch for anyone. I also, the masterclass, with the masterclass, there comes a special invitation to my paid 4-week course. The first 10 signees are going to get an $800 bonus. I won't tell you what it is. You need to watch my masterclass. And then you have live access to me for 4 weeks, once weekly group coaching call. And then you have a lifetime access to the material. So there are videos, there are examples. There is an example of the best contract to sign with your contractor and an architect. I explained this whole vetting process of how to find a reliable contractor. Someone told me, Monika, they are like unicorns. There are no reliable contractors. And I said, I assure you there are. You just need to know how to find them. So this is how I can really help you. And then, of course, there is the high ticket, high touch curatorship projects, which I do both in the Hamptons and in Europe and worldwide as a consultant and a curator. But the masterclass is the first step. It's free. Actually, you can see if you like me, there has to be chemistry, right? So, and then there is the course, and then there are also, again, you get access to me for 4 weeks, lifetime access to the material, and you can always schedule a construction therapy if you need, like, really, one-on-one intense conversation with me.
So what is construction therapy? I'm curious about that.
So construction therapy is on demand, right? You can on my website, de-mazing, you can, there is a calendar, and I don't have too many openings available, but you can just kind of, on a spur of the moment, maybe you are in the middle of the project and you need some troubleshooting. So this is where construction therapy, like on demand access to me, is best. If you have time, and hopefully that's your case, if you are planning correctly, then you just slowly go through the motion of my free masterclass and my course, and then you are really, really prepared, because I give you the exact blueprint of a successful project.
That's so fantastic. we talked about these shows, and I think everybody gets excited about doing a home renovation project, and they underestimate all that's involved with it, all the emotion that can come with it. If you're working on a project and you find, like Angela said, the scope of project changes because of mold behind the wall, or there's a structural issue that you weren't made aware of, that can become really emotional. And to have that kind of support through the process, I think would be really beneficial to so many people. And I also want to say how much I appreciate you being an advocate for hiring really good professionals, not only to give you the peace of mind, but also as a realtor, I see a lot of DIY home improvement projects that just don't turn out that great. And then a lot of people don't pull the appropriate permits that can be an issue on resale.
Absolutely. And if you engage an architect, right, they are going to make sure that what you are doing is to code, that is going to last a long time, and they are going to secure a permit on your behalf rather than you doing that. So again, like I encourage people to look at what they are going to allocate to their project as an investment rather than, oh, I'm just spending money. And I do call it, I call it, happiness equity. Again, while I, because the budget was my main focus, and I made the decision not to add on to my house. At the same time, I knew that I wanted, my dream was to have this beautiful, which I saw in a hotel in London, this beautiful looking, vintage looking shower head, with exposed, everything was exposed. It's not hidden in the wall with just the head sticking out of the wall. It's like this beautiful thing. And it cost $3,000. I could have easily bought $300 fixture. And my friends thought I lost my mind, but I spent my Christmas bonus, and I have to tell you, return on my investment, 1,000, because every time I take a shower, it's this pleasurable moment. So again, you pick and choose. You are so empowered as a homeowner. And again, you can only truly be empowered if you are cognizant of what is important to you, how you live in your house, making sure it's a pleasure, and also being empowered and educated as to the process, because otherwise you will fall victim. You will fall victim to the completely dysfunctional building industry, because that's a fact.
So the realtor in me has to ask this question. If you ever leave the home that you're in, are you going to take the beautiful shower fixture with you and replace it with something else so that you can take it to your next home, or would you leave it there?
I will leave it. I will leave it. And I hope that, but first of all, I don't think I'm going to sell this house. I think I'm dying in this house. So, but if I do, I mean, we never know. I think I'm just going to leave it, and I hope that the next homeowner is going to love it as much as I do.
Well,
I want to say something to that though, Brooke, because
Yeah.
you bring up a very good point. I think there are times of our lives where things are important to us and then they may change. I know that the home that I lived in right now, and this was after we looked at the 2-story great room, I discovered that for myself, I wanted to block that in and make that only 1 story for the downstairs. And on the upstairs, I wanted to make it a weight room. And I had this really heavy weight equipment that had like those great big pull down bars with the stackable weights. And I had a great big industrial treadmill that goes up to 12 miles an hour. So when you really get running on it, it's a lot of pounding on the floor. And so when we had the home built, I had them use railroad beams. They're these great big steel beams that they use for railroad ties. And they reinforced the floor so that I could have this really heavy duty weight equipment in that room, which was the bonus room. And so that I could use that as a really industrial place. But now that we've been in the house for 14 years, when I move again, I'll move to a smaller home that has like a weight facility on site, where you see these little neighborhoods that have like a fitness center or something on site. And I probably won't have it inside my house, because eventually I ended up, because of the podcast and the YouTube show and all this stuff, I ended up moving everything out of the weight room, and that became my studio. And so my priorities shifted a little bit over a 15-year window. And so what was really important to me when I bought the house was my climate controlled library. I had over 10,000 books, and I had this massive weight room. But now I've gotten rid of all my books and I've moved my books to Kindle. My priorities changed. So when I go to the next house, I don't need the great big library and I don't need the big weight room. But
Well,
at one point, they were so important to me. They were deal breakers, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's reinforces what you've been saying. You really need to know your space, how you're going to use it, and what's important to you.
Absolutely.
So, do you have a quick little nightmare story that you can tell us and tell us how we would avoid that going forward?
So yes, so one was the lady who ended up in the with the claustrophobic little bathroom, and that is, I would say that this is sort of like symbolic again, misunderstanding, right, of what you had in mind, but not really expressed in the language of the industry. And that's why you do need to learn the language industry. It cannot be what you have in your head. My other client, maybe it's not the horror story, but how it evolved. And I kept on asking her, so did you make decisions? Did you go? And she said, Monika, I have everything in my head. And I am like, this is so fantastic. Where is your little opening so that I can put a little USB cord and like download it,
Right.
so yes, so there are just, again, the horror stories have to do with with the money, with the money disappearing because there was no a breakdown of the budget into the 16 categories, right? Then there is the horror story of not getting what you wanted because it started with you being enamored in something that you saw and you just did on the spur of the moment and not spend enough time, right? And then there is quality. Again, some people are only were insisting on maybe hiring the cheapest contractor because they overheard someone, in a line for coffee without vetting them properly, and then ending up with them, and they would just disappear in the middle of the project, having invoiced for a big deposit and then never finishing the project. So it's just endless and endless and endless. And I would want to leave this, rather than the horror story image and everybody's, in the listener's head. I am inviting you to actually feel the Zen-like feeling of your housewarming party when you have gone through the process, not in a rushed manner, but in a manner that you feel every step of the way that you are making the right decision, that you have the right team, that then when the project is going on for months or sometimes years, if you are building a home, right? It can take more than a year. You actually are building memories and you end up with something so fantastic, our home. And our home is just so many things, right? It is our kingdom. It is in many cases the biggest investment of our life. So why botch the experience? Let's just all feel the Zen-like feeling of the housewarming party and the clinking of the glasses, when you are celebrating successful finish of your project.
What a beautiful thought, and what a great way to wrap it up. So plan and make good decisions, educate yourself, and have a vision of creating your Zen at the end of it all. I really love that. So as we wind this up, Monika, if you'll just tell everybody again about your masterclass and where they can find you.
Yeah, so I don't know if you are putting the link in the chat. If not, you can find it on my website, which is de-mazing.com. I hope to see you there. I hope to see you in the masterclass, and then if you are really serious, as you should be, in the course.
That's great information. And yes, it is your home. It's your biggest investment. And if you're going to do renovations, do it the right way. Plan, educate yourself, and have professionals. And it's an investment that you're going to enjoy the entire time you're there. And then when you sell it, you'll be able to reap those benefits. So we really appreciate all that great information and the great advice you shared with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, we loved it. It was great. Great stories, great advice. And Angela, if you'd like to tell everybody where they can find you.
I've got a podcast and a YouTube show called Ask a House Cleaner. And again, I'm on the cleaning end of things. So if you have a question, you get to ask a house cleaning question, and I get to help you find an answer. And you can find me on all the social medias at Ask Angela Brown. Thanks so much for having me here. I learned so much, and I really enjoyed being part of this today because I've I will never go into a renovation project again unarmed, thanks to Monika. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah, it was really great advice. And again, I'm at Ask Brooke Bryan on all the social medias. I co-host this podcast, Realty Success, and we try to share with you great information like this to make your home, your kingdom, the place where you love to be. And I also have a book, The Ultimate Guide for First-Time Home Buyers. You can find it on Amazon, and it's designed to help people realize the American dream of home ownership. So we really thank everybody for joining us today. And thanks, Monika, for all the great information.
My
We'll see you
pleasure.
next week.